The health and safety protocols are all anybody seems to be able to talk about in the NBA right now. We're knocking on wood, but we're also diving into why have the Suns avoided it. We'll also look at what Suns team this one or what NBA team this Suns team actually looks like in recent NBA history and just how good they might be. And then I'll close out the show with an impassioned plea to change a couple of things about this Suns franchise. We'll have a little bit of fun. We'll break stuff down. All of it coming up right away just for you on Locked On Suns.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a writer at Suns.com and Dime Magazine. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen each and every weekday morning. Thank you for listening on YouTube and subscribing and watching there. Thank you for listening on whatever podcast platform you're on. The best way to support the show is to do exactly what it is that you are already doing. Listen, watch, subscribe, follow, all of that good stuff. So thank you a million for doing that. We are doing giveaways on the YouTube channel. So if you are watching here for the first time and have not hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do so. If you listen for the most part and don't always check us out on YouTube, it would give us a big boost to just go hit that button on our account, that big blue subscribe button, to give us that little bit extra that we need. We're making our way to 750, where I will be giving away a playoff rally towel from last season, and then 1,000, where I will be mailing out a Kelly Oubre bobblehead. The shipping's going to cost a lot, guys, so you got to get me there. Make it worth my while. Let's have some fun with this as we grow this little community of ours here on Locked On Suns. But as I said, I'm not even going to say the C word. I don't want to make you turn the other way before I even have the chance. But the health and safety protocol is exactly what we have to start with, because it is the story in the NBA. It is unfortunately the big headline in the sports world right now, and it's jeopardizing the Christmas Day games. Yet the Suns thus far have been able to avoid it. And we are still heading toward, again, as I said to open the show, we have to knock on all of the wood in sight, but we are heading toward a Suns-Warriors Christmas Day clash where all of the superstar players are still intact and healthy and not on the protocol. Booker, Paul, Ayton, Bridges, Curry, Green, all of these guys are still playing. And besides that, the Suns themselves have not yet had anybody go onto the protocol. So it got a little bit of attention because the Suns played a high-profile national TV game against the Lakers last night. The Lakers, who have been hit with this, with Dwight Howard and Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk and on, being hit with the virus and spending some time on the health and safety protocol. We saw LeBron's scare a couple weeks ago. Now the Lakers are actually having guys test positive. And so it got some attention, and it was talked about post-game. And Sam Amick and Mark Medina both wrote pieces. Medina's is over at NBA.com. I thought Sam did a little bit more digging. He was able to talk to Monty Williams a little bit one-on-one. So I want to go through his piece and talk a little bit about how the Suns have been able to avoid this, because obviously the timing was pretty poor during the summer when Chris Paul came down with COVID just before the Lakers series, against all odds, seemingly. Somehow that was able to happen. Or I'm sorry, it was not the Lakers series. The Lakers series was the arm thing. It was later on into the playoffs when Chris got hit. And so Booker as well at the beginning of the regular season. So it's not like they have not had any problems, but they've largely avoided this big wave. And what it sounds like happened is that the Suns were able to rally around the same thing that they've always rallied around, which is culture. And I'm not going to be here. I already hear how ridiculous that sounds. I'm not certainly going to sit here and try to tell you that having a cohesive culture and having a group of people who really like one another and buy in is necessarily all that it takes to avoid getting sick. That would be stupid. and very simplistic. So I'm not saying that, but I think that when you read some of the things that they've at least just tried to do, it's not too far off from the way that they've handled a lot of other things, whether it be handling the bubble, whether it be rallying around Chris Paul having that injury last year, or the contract situations of Bridges and Ayton this preseason, or even the Robert Sarver situation, which is it's all been the same, and it's all been based around communication, connection, and again, buying in and committing. And so what it sounds like happened is that Monty Williams basically took the time to give something of a speech, I guess you could say, to the team when it became clear that this was going to start circulating. And I mean, basically just told them this is going to happen. Here's what Monty said. I just told them that you're going to have family members coming back to town. So the safest thing to do is to get them tested when they come into town, keep them safe and keep us safe. People are struggling. The numbers are back up again. Folks are dying again. For us to complain about playing basketball or anything within what we do is just kind of silly, and we don't want that to be our story. We want hooping and our culture to be our story. They also have been getting just some information and support from Chris Paul, who is still, despite not being the president of the executive committee on the Players Association anymore, is obviously still connected with those types of conversations. And as a veteran, is somebody who knows what's going on. And so, between Monty and Chris, it seems like there's really just a conversation of let's not let this be a problem. To the extent that we have any control over it, let's have people around us be tested. Let's not take risks. Let's not expose ourselves both metaphorically and literally here, and just be smart, right? And furthermore, Monty also went on to say that he shared with the team an experience. He said, quote, a personal experience that I've been through because of the situation. And then we just kind of left it at that. Continued, we want to do what we can to keep the business going, but also keep our families safe. It doesn't seem like the virus is going anywhere, so we might as well do what we can to keep each other safe. And without getting too far into, my own personal philosophies or anything else, it was impressive and nice to hear Monty put things into perspective that way, as he so often is able to, because at the end of the day, I do think we're all coming to some kind of that same realization, right? Which is, this thing keeps changing. The messaging is struggling to keep up. Sports are back in the throes of this, and it all just sort of sucks. It all is hard to keep track of, let alone keep straight what the best action on our parts is. And so there is a portion of people that I think I've heard kind of use that language of it's not going anywhere, right? That's been something we've been hearing since last spring. But I think what's nice to hear about this Suns team and the way that they're able to constantly turn negatives into positives and just stay dedicated and stay together and hunker down and everything else is a lot of the people who use that language use it as a way to defend their inaction. It's a way to say, I'm not going to do anything because it's useless. It's going to stay. There's nothing to be gained. Screw it. I'm going to live my life. It doesn't matter to me. It never has, never will. I'm not going to do any of the things that we're being told to do because whatever, it's not going to fix anything. Whereas the Suns, on the other hand, at least so far, have been successful because they're turning that mentality and that realization that I think we're all coming to into action rather than inaction. And they're saying, hey, we just got to get used to this. We just have to do what we are being told to do what it sounds like is the best thing for us to be able to continue to play basketball, to put food on the table, to entertain our fans, and to stay healthy and turning that into action. I saw and heard a round of about 2 or 3 players getting booster preparation happening. I didn't see the players, but I heard the staff, the training staff talking about it. And that was all the way back Thanksgiving weekend, almost a month ago, when Omicron was just a figment of our imaginations. It wasn't a word we even knew how to pronounce yet. The Suns were already making adjustments, and they might not have even been doing that related to Omicron. It's just, again, what we are being told to do. It sounds like the league is about 2/3 boosted and rising. And, the Suns were ahead of the curve on that. So that's just one example. Monty's words are just another example. And again, it's not to say that I might put this episode up Thursday morning and the Suns have 3 positives. They're not going to avoid this thing just by sheer force of courageous and kind and thoughtful action. It's not that simple, but they are trying, and I think that matters, and it's helped them so far. So what that brings us to is this team is special, and that's pretty clear, not only from their record, but some of this cultural stuff that we talk about as well. So I want to get into which recent NBA juggernaut is closest to these Suns? What is the comparison point that we can make with all of that in mind to these Phoenix Suns? We'll get into all of that in just a second. First, though, a quick word from PrizePicks, which is daily fantasy made easy and made fun, frankly. PrizePicks has the best NBA daily fantasy prop game on the market, and here is why. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of, from assists, points, rebounds, threes, etc. You pick 2 to 5 players, you choose the over or the under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times your bet on any entry. It's just you versus the projections. I recently went over to prizepicks.com, entered, because here's the thing, you can also cross sports, and that's what makes it especially fun. So what I did, Devin Booker's return game, once it became clear he's returning, set him in my lineup, went over on points, which I believe he hit. And then I actually have not checked if I won this bet now that I'm realizing it. That is why I'm confused, because this was only on Monday. And then I bet on Kyler Murray over rushing yards for this upcoming game. So I'm not too confident in that one now that I've seen how the Lions game played out. But Kyler's been running a little bit more, it feels like. He's been having to scramble, so I went with it. Took me all of 30 seconds to make my selections. It's that easy, and I'm hoping I can still win. I'm holding out hope. PrizePicks is the safest daily fantasy app. They offer fast withdrawals, so go to prizepicks.com today or go to the App Store, download the PrizePicks app. All users that deposit using the promo code NBA will get $50 free if your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. That's right. All users that deposit and use the promo code NBA will get $50 free if that first entry scores even one single point. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. Today's show is also brought to you by Boost Mobile. You listen to podcasts like this one for the power of knowledge, and you switch to Boost Mobile for the power of saving money. Because with Boost, you get the power of a free 5G phone where you can listen to all the latest podcasts, but you also get the power of 3 unlimited data lines for $30 per month per line, so your family can harness all the brain power as well. You get the power of one of America's largest 5G networks, so you can do it all at the speed of 5G. And with all that money you'll save and all the knowledge that you'll gain, you will become how powerful? Well, switch to Boost Mobile and find out. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A32 5G when you switch to one of America's largest 5G networks. More power to save. Boost Mobile. Disclaimer, free phone, limited to new customers and 1 per line. Additional restrictions apply. Offers and coverage not available everywhere for all phones and networks. See boostmobile.com for details. The Suns are currently on pace for 68-69 wins. They are winning everything in sight. They're coasting in most of these games. Guys are not even playing the full fourth quarter. It has looked easy lately. And so I want to explore which recent NBA juggernaut these Suns can be compared with, because they are getting into that uncharted territory right now where there are not a whole lot of precedents, especially with some of the specifics of who they are and what they just did last season. First of all, though, I want to thank you guys one more time for making Locked On Suns your first listen. Thanks for helping grow this YouTube channel, for listening, your friends, finding us, keeping on listening to us, and all of that good stuff. It's been really awesome. We're growing, and it's cool to see. So thank you for that. I'm going to go in reverse chronological order here. So I'm going to start with the most recent and go backwards. I really only found 2 comparisons over the past decade plus. And the first one might sound pretty obvious because I think it's going, as time continues to pass here, I think this team is going to be the one that we hear most often for the Suns, and that is the Spurs. And in particular, it is the 2014-15 Spurs. And I know San Antonio might not be the team that Suns fans want to hear, but it's after the Suns had the rivalry. The Suns were not competitive by 2014-15. So I personally was appreciating those teams at the time. They were awesome to watch. They had changed how they looked. Kawhi Leonard was really their best player by this point. And this 14-15 team came back after losing in the 2014 finals. We all remember. Game 6, Chris Bosh has the rebound, kicks it out to Ray Allen in the right corner. 3, LeBron hits a game-winning shot to win that game, and then comes back in Game 7 and they clinch it. Well, the Spurs come back with a vengeance, 55-27 the next season. But here's where they compare to the Suns and why I think it is such a close and obvious example of a recent NBA team that this Suns team is going to continue to get compared with. No one averaged more than 16.5 points. Only 1 or 2 players averaged more than 30 minutes. Yet the Spurs were 7th in offense and 2nd in defense that season. And beyond that, what's kind of maybe the craziest stat or number or thing about this team is they were 12 deep, legitimately 12 deep. You will remember Matt Bonner was on that team. He was sort of the 12th man, but like these Suns, I mean, we don't think about that right now because these Suns are dealing with injuries. But if you include Frank Kaminsky and Abdul Nader, not to mention the fact that there's just an empty roster spot, a wasted roster spot with Dario Saric's injury, that's, 12, 13, maybe even 13 players who really, are going to end up playing legitimate rotation minutes. So this team, it was obviously Kawhi, Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, but it also had Danny Green, Boris Diaw, Bellinelli, Splitter, Corey Joseph, Aaron Baines, which is funny, and then Matt Bonner. Even Patty Mills only played 51 games, but we know how important and big time he was for them. This team even had a young Kyle Anderson at the end of the bench. It had a young JaMychal Green at the end of the bench. So stacked and deep. And I think pretty clear why that team resembles this one. It had the veterans leading the way, but then it had young, growing star-type players, especially Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green to a certain extent as well, that were kind of taking the baton a little bit and leading them into this new era. Well, that era would end with Kawhi leaving, but it was pretty cool in that moment to see that happen. And then, of course, they went on to win the finals a year after losing in the finals. The other example that I was able to find, and really one of the only other ones that made sense to me, was the 2012-13 Thunder. So you'll probably remember what happened with them as well. They lost in the 2012 finals in 6 games, or I think it was actually 5 games to the Heat, but really, really close series. Then they came back and they were 60-22 this year. In my opinion, probably the best or the second best team of the KD Westbrook era in Oklahoma City. I mean, the only other one that I think was really comparable was probably the 2014-15 team that pushed Golden State. Or I think, actually, no, that was the 2015-16 team that pushed Golden State pretty aggressively and almost beat them. They had the 3-1 lead, Dion Waiters. You remember that team. But this one was similar to the Suns for a few reasons. One was, again, losing to the finals and then coming back even better. That's what I think we're seeing with these Suns. And then you also have the idea of sort of the young and the old. So Westbrook and Durant were sort of the head of the snake. The Suns don't have quite that level of star power at the very top in terms of young players, but obviously they have Booker, and then they have Ayton and Bridges as, sort of a trio rather than just this super powered duo that Oklahoma City had. But then they also had veterans like Kevin Martin, Thabo Sefolosha, Nick Collison, even Derek Fisher, who I believe they traded for at the deadline that year. And they were all very prominently involved. It was basically Westbrook, Durant, those 4 guys, and Serge Ibaka. That was kind of the full rotation at that time. And very old in the case of Collison and Fisher, and very young in the case of Westbrook and Durant, not unlike, the McGee, Crowder, Paul group. That's a huge part of the Suns rotation. And then the very young guys on the other end with Bridges and Ayton and Booker. So that one I don't think is quite the same, because I think Westbrook and Durant were just such forces of nature, and the fact that they were teammates and everything else is just impossible to really imagine. I mean, both of those guys won MVP awards, and that's not the case for Booker or for Paul. And it probably will not be the case for Ayton or Bridges. So a little bit of a different team. And that's probably why I lean toward the 14-15 Spurs. And again, I think that comparison is going to keep coming up, guys. I really do. The Suns net rating this year is a little bit better than those Spurs, but it's a little lower than those Thunder. So I think they kind of fall right in the middle. And I think the record will probably be better. I mean, those Oklahoma City guys had a 60-22 record. Again, the Suns are on pace to win 69 games this season. They ran it back this year. They got even better. And again, they're in uncharted territory. So I think it's going to be fun. And I think that these comparisons will keep being made. Sounds like we're slowly, I think, starting to get the national media realizing that this team may be just the best one in the entire league. And it took a while, but hopefully we're there. I don't know. All right, we'll have some fun to close this show out. 2 impassioned pleas about Suns history, Suns future. We'll get into all of it in just a second. First, though, a quick word from betonline.ag. The fastest and easiest way to make a bet. BetOnline has you covered throughout 2021 and into 2022 with the most odds, props, and lines that you will find anywhere. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all sports action this season. So head to their new updated website, betonline.ag, or their mobile app. Make an account, and when you do, use the promo code LOCKEDON when you make your first deposit to get a 50% welcome bonus. That's promo code LOCKEDON when you make your first deposit to get a 50% welcome bonus straight to your account. From basketball, of course, to football, playoffs, and bowls, even to your favorite Vegas casino games. That's right. You can play some craps at BetOnline. They make it fun, they make it easy, and they have more of it than anybody else. So don't wait to take advantage of all of their amazing offers throughout 2021 and beyond. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on a game. Don't wait to take advantage of all of their new offers across the website. BetOnline, where the game starts. Closing out the show, I have to say this. It's time. It's time to get honest. It's time to put all of my cards on the table. I will start by saying that I am biased. I don't think biased is fair. Maybe there are some of you listening who are younger than me. But for me, growing up when I did, the team being great, developing, and blossoming when it did, my guy is Shawn Marion. Now, I also would say my guy is Boris Diaw, but come on. Guy was only here for a little while, and he's not going to be your favorite player. That'd be a little. You guys would not take me seriously if I really walked around telling people that my favorite Sun of all time was Boris Diaw. I mean, let's just be chill. Also, you get him for trading Joe Johnson, and I can't really abide by that, so I also can't support that. But it's Shawn Marion, and we know the history. Underappreciated, scorned by the media, has always had a chip on his shoulder, understandably so. Goes to Miami. It doesn't work out there. He gets dispatched when it's clear that LeBron is going to come. Then he is on the Mavericks team that ends up beating those Heatles, and he wins a title and then eventually plays with LeBron in Cleveland and is able to continue to win over there and embellish his record a little bit. So his track record's undeniable. What my plea is for him to be appreciated would be good, but also he just got nominated for the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame. He has a chance to finally get to his rightful place, have some respect put on his name, and I have to, right here, loudly and proudly on the record, claim that Shawn Marion has to be an all-star. He has to make, or an Hall of Famer. He has to make the Hall of Fame team. He is 60th all-time in blocks. He is 19th all-time in steals. He led the league in steals twice. He was 12th in the NBA in three-pointers one season, which is crazy. It would not happen now, but it happened. He is 35th all-time in NBA minutes. He obviously has the championship. He's a four-time All-Star. He got MVP votes 2 times. He was an All-NBA third-team player 2 years in a row. I don't know what else there is that needs to be said. He has a 76% Hall of Fame probability per Basketball Reference. And it just needs to happen. And the other part of this plea is put him in the Ring of Honor. I can't think of a better time, frankly. The Suns are, embroiled in this investigation. They have so much bad PR. I understand all of these things need to be signed off on by the tippity top of the powers that be. And it might just be petty and it might just be whatever between these parties at this point. But put Shawn Marion in the Ring of Honor. And for that matter, can we renovate the freaking Ring of Honor? If you guys have been in the building, you know that it's a lithium whatever screen at this point. It's not even, or an LED. What am I saying? Lithium LED screen at this point. And it doesn't even have like an actual physical anything that is representing these people. It got taken down and replaced by a screen. Find somewhere real to put it. Have it be tangible, something I can actually look at and touch and see, and it stays there rather than just flashing and being replaced by an ad every so often. And put Marion in it. The other part of my plea, one more thing while I'm here. I've been talking about this with Greg Esposito over at PHNX. And one of the things that we disagree on, we agree on Marion in the Hall of Fame. We agree on Marion in the Ring of Honor. We agree on Diana Taurasi getting a statue outside of the arena. That should happen. Hopefully it does when she retires. But speaking of the Mercury, one thing Espo and I do not agree on is the gorilla needs to go. And I saved this until the end. Maybe I should have done it at the beginning. I don't know. I don't know if it's controversial to say this, but the gorilla needs to go. The Cardinals upgraded the bird on the jerseys and on the hats and on everything to make it look more fearsome like a decade ago, if you guys remember that. And it worked. It actually does look more fearsome. It doesn't just look like a literal bird like the old ones used to. And it helped. The gorilla has not been updated seemingly in years. We know the story. It was a musical performer, a singing telegram guy that dressed up as a gorilla for whatever reason. He's now a public speaker, but he actually became the gorilla just out of the blue because the fans liked seeing him so much. I believe he was cast as the gorilla for like 15 years and then eventually retired. I don't know who the person is that does it now. But it feels like it hasn't changed since all the way back then when the original picture was in black and white. So my proposal is this, as I said, speaking of the Mercury. Scorch, which is the purple dragon thing with the orange hair or the orange mane or whatever it is, Spikes, who looks like a cartoon. I say lean in. The gorilla is ridiculous enough. Nobody knows why we have a gorilla mascot. He looks weird. He jumps around. It looks too humanoid for me, and it freaks me out. But let's lean in even further to the ridiculous and make Scorch the mascot. I understand the idea, the argument that the Mercury should have their own thing, and I'm all for that. But I think it's too good of a mascot to pass up. Too good to have it put in a closet for half the year while the WNBA season is not going on. Make Scorch the Suns mascot as well, and let's just have some fun. It'll be our Gritty or our Philly Fanatic, just the most cartoonish, silly-looking thing we can think of, and that will be ours. I love it. I am all for it. Let's get Marion's name up there. Let's get him enshrined in the Hall of Fame, and let's get Scorch out as the mascot. All right. That'll wrap up the show. Closing out the week, giving you guys one last holiday week episode. Tomorrow night, after the final buzzer of Suns Thunder, it is a home game, so bear with me on the timing. I will be home around 10:30 to talk all things Suns Thunder and get you ready for the holiday weekend. Until then, enjoy your day, folks, and I will talk to you tonight.